Professor Callum Weaver had never intended to frighten anyone. In the unadorned lecture hall of Greymont University, he merely wanted to resuscitate a language that by all standard measures was well and truly dead. The tongue had no ISO code, no recognized phonology in anybody's database, and no speakers left alive in even the most remote valleys where folklorists still sometimes found entire syntactic systems preserved like orchids in glass. It existed only in 4 brittle codices that Greymont's library kept buried in controlled humidity, and in a notebook that Callum's doctoral advisor had left him as a final bequest. He called it Old Leithian, because the codices had been recovered near the ruins of Lake Leith, though the pages themselves made no mention of any lake. The scribes had written in curling characters that created a sound system unlike anything in the Indo-European family. Callum loved its fractures and peculiarities. Verbs that conjugated for dreamed action, adjectives that grew ablative suffixes in the presence of water nouns, pronouns that fused whenever 2 people shared secrets. Most of all, he loved its verbs of motion, which came alive in a thrumming formation called the fluxive. To go, he told his small seminar of graduate students, is rendered not as a self-contained verb but as an eddy that drags every noun around it into the same current. On the first day of the autumn term, only 9 students had registered for special topics in extinct linguistics, Old Leithian. Most were bright, restless minds seeking territories unclaimed by older scholars. They clustered around the front rows. Petra, the historical phonologist with black nail polish she used as a mnemonic, left hand for voiced, right for voiceless. Jonah, who kept track of etymologies as if they were family trees with grudges. Lashanda, the mathematician turned linguist who delighted in morphosyntactic puzzles, and 6 others whose curiosity burned in quieter ways. Callum introduced them to the script, to its lavish spirals that hinted at water currents, then set them loose on exercises. Transliterate, transcribe, translate. Class proceeded in companionable silence, punctuated by occasional gasps of surprise when someone noticed a pattern nobody had documented. Everything remained ordinary until the 4th week, when they reached fluxives, the imperative aspect. Fluxive imperatives, Callum explained, were commands meant to engulf. In English we say come or run. In Old Latvian, you entered a flux, so the command effectively said, let your presence redistribute the world. He chalked one verb on the board in careful phonetic symbols. Leo, lostikis, lastikes, laskation. It means something like, to unleave, he said. Not quite, return. Not quite, remain. A call to erase the boundary between arrival and departure. The students practiced the clusters in low murmurs. Callum watched their lips shape impossible consonants and felt a parental pride. Then Petra, bold as ever, pronounced it at normal speed. The room inhaled. A hush thicker than ordinary silence settled. The sensory walls seemed to recede, leaving an emptiness that rang in the ear. Petra blinked, perhaps noticing, and opened her mouth to comment. She vanished. There was no flash, no cinematic swirl, no puff of smoke. One frame of reality contained Petra, the next did not. Her notebook slid from where her elbows had pressed it, falling with a papery sigh onto the desk. Callum's first dreadful thought was that he had fainted and dreamed her disappearance, but Jonah's strangled cry made clear that everyone else had witnessed it too. Lashanda dropped her pen. 2 of the quieter students stumbled to their feet. Petra? Jonah called, voice ricocheting in the not-quite-right acoustics. Nothing answered but the hum of the overhead lights. Callum raised a trembling hand, as if silence could be commanded like semantics. Stay calm, he told them, though he himself was anything but. She may have run out suddenly. Lashanda gave him a look carved from incredulity. You think she accelerated faster than sight? She was just gone. Someone suggested calling campus security. Someone else suggested an ambulance, though there was no patient to treat. Callum, heart-pounding, did the only thing he could structure into an action. He dismissed class, walked directly to the department office, and lied. A family emergency for Ms. Petrikov. She left abruptly that night. His phone chimed with messages from students sharing rumors that spread faster than official statements. Petra's roommate reported that she did not come home. Her swipe card had last been registered at Callum's building at 2:14 p.m. The police opened a missing person case. Callum sat at his kitchen table until sunrise. Old Lathian codex opened before him, scanning every verb and notion that might imply peril. His mentor's notebook held marginalia in spidery pencil. Flux of powerful unstable. Avoid encounter? The scrawl dissolved into an illegible question mark. Class resumed 2 days later because universities, like inanimate systems, cling to continuity. 7 students now, mourning in ways they could not articulate, filled the front row. Nobody mentioned the possibility that Petra had been swallowed by a word. Callum avoided the fluxive verb completely, steering them to numerals and quantifiers instead. Yet scholarship, like water, seeks its gradient. Joan approached during office hours and, with the brittle courtesy of someone containing terror, asked, "Professor, do you think the language itself did something?" Callum tried to muster a rational answer but felt his voice thinning. "Languages reflect culture, not physics," he said finally, a statement he once would have defended like scripture. Still, some utterances are dangerous in context. Shibboleths that get people killed. Incantations that lead to violence. Perhaps old Lathian encoded a ritual, the other had one half without the safety of the other. Jonah nodded as though filing this in a chest of hypotheses. He left with a stack of photocopied folios. That evening, Callum received an email. Subject, hypothesis re. Fluxive imperative pronouncing threshold. Professor Weaver, if ali alieski is a command to unleave. Maybe it unthreads the speaker from a reference frame. I'm going to test controlled pronunciation with different vowel lengths. See attached plan. Please advise if you think this is reckless. Jonah Callum replied within minutes. Absolutely do not. But the message bounced. The server reported Jonah's account inactive. Alarmed, he called Jonah's phone. Straight to voicemail. He drove to Jonah's dorm. A custodian told him campus police had just sealed the room. Another missing person report had been filed scarcely 2 hours earlier. That night, sleep evaded Callum, so he returned to the library's temperature-controlled vault. The codices lay inside a glass case, each page adorned with watery glyphs that now seemed to look back at him. He requested full access, citing emergency scholarship. The librarian, glimpsing his ashen face, obliged. Around 3 a.m., Callum found a marginal gloss in the third codex, next to a red ink variant of the ominous verb. The gloss, in monastic Latin, read, Hic verbum quod nullus, dicat nisi reverti cupit ad attatum numinum. Rough translation. Hear the word that none shall speak unless he desires to return to the age of the gods. Return. Unleave. Not an imperative to summon something here, but to pull the speaker elsewhere. Petra and Jonah had not vanished. They had obeyed the word. They had been transported where? The next morning, the department chair, Dr. Emmeline Todd, summoned Callum. Her meeting room felt glacial. 2 students from your course have disappeared, she stated, as though intoning a quorum. The university has suspended the seminar pending investigation. Callum, mind flickering with images of Petra and Jonah in some mythic lacuna. Aaron tried to explain the possibility that an uninvited metaphysics had infiltrated their study. Emmeline's expression tightened, like silk drawn over wire. I understand the need for caution, but we must focus on realities. The police think you were the last person to see both students. Her words fell like stamps, indexing him under suspicion. She did not threaten, she informed. Callum realized that if he spoke of magic verbs, he would sound unhinged, possibly culpable. He left her office, walking stiffly as a marionette. Within hours, the news reached blogs. Missing Graymont students, rumored cult linguistics class, professor under scrutiny. LaShonda organized the remaining 5 classmates for a private meeting that night in the student union. Callum arrived to find them sitting in a semicircle around a printout of the codex page with the Latin gloss. We think Petra and Jonah might still be alive, LaShonda said, dark eyes resolute, but only if we understand what the verb actually does. Callum felt a strange comfort in their defiance. You're right, he admitted. Etymologically, it may call the speaker into mythic time, the age of the gods. But languages seldom operate on single words alone. They rely on structure. Maybe we triggered something incomplete. What if we pronounced the antidote? A student named Raj suggested. Another fluxive that rethreads rather than unthreads. Callum hesitated. The risk felt colossal, but the guilt of inaction heavier. He told him the truth. The codices referenced a complementary verb, ilxc, colic excess, and lxc, to unleave, and lxk. Colic excess and lxs, colic excess and lxc, to unleave a closing vortex. Yet the form appeared only one, partly smudged. No scholar had recorded its pronunciation. Lashonda leaned forward, determination crackling. Then our job is to reconstruct it. We use phonological rules, cross-section paradigms, calculate the most likely vowels, and we do it together, so no single person speaks the dangerous half. Though every rational instinct told Callum to involve authorities, he recognized nobody on the outside would even comprehend the problem. We prepare meticulously, he said. The utterance must be contextualized in a full sentence, an incantation of completion. For the next 48 hours they worked in secret. Callum supplied pages of morphosyntactic tables. Lashonda computed glides and stress patterns using statistical models. Raj compared the verb to fluxive cousins. Two others traced pragmatic markers for closure events. They synthesized an utterance. Eid Paliklak Diklak Kalak Diklak /SLALDX Diklak SLALDX LALDX 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 LALA Physia synthesized in an utterance. For the brig disintegrated. Under by low-FOS dismissal protocols, it had him. Synthesize and fragile. Not pretty, but they rehearsed each segment in isolation. To test for hazards, they spoke truncated syllables. Nothing happened. Callum insisted on one final precaution. They would chant it collectively, so the intention was shared, diffusing whatever singular focus had stolen Petra. They convened in the empty lecture hall at midnight. Because cliché or not, it felt proper. Desks had been pushed aside to form a circle. In the center sat Petra's notebook and Jonah's annotated folios, tangible reminders of absence. Callum looked at his students, 5 young people, so earnest he ached with protective fear. If at any point you feel something shift, stop. He counted them in. They began. XD Lakla, collect, condensed, as though the walls exhaled. Dust motes pivoted. Callum's skin tingled. They pressed on. LLCA. A vibration like bowstring resonance rippled through their bones. Raj's glasses fogged. But nothing disappeared. It openly slogged off the desk, reverting to 16 horizontals. It broke in 2, with 2 additional shapes. Petra's silver ring, not physically but perceptually. Every object shimmered 2 inches sideways, then resettled. A roaring hush swallowed their collective gasp. Then, where the notebook had lain, there were 2 additional shapes. Petra's silver ring, Jonah's wooden keychain. Petra herself stood crouched beside the desk, breathing like a diver who had surfaced too quickly. Jonah materialized half a heartbeat later, knees buckling as if gravity had just remembered him. Lashonda shrieked in relief and grabbed Petra's shoulders. Raj steadied Jonah. Callum's vision blurred with tears he had not anticipated. They all spoke at once. Are you hurt? Where were you? But words piled like autumn leaves. Petra's mouth moved silently before voice found her. Underwater, she whispered. Not literal water, a place that felt like water in the shape of air. Jonah nodded, eyes wide. There were structures, currents, time looped. I could sense but not see you all, like distant reflections. Callum asked the question pounding in every mind. Did you hear us speak just now? Yes, Petra said. Your voices lit a path. We followed. The euphoria of rescue lasted maybe 2 minutes before pragmatics intruded. They had violated university suspension orders, conducted a risky ritual, and now restored two missing individuals in a manner irreconcilable with police procedure. Petra, always incisive, grasped the stakes first. We can't explain this conventionally. If we try, they'll disbelieve or detain us. Jonah added, and there's something else. When you pulled us back, I felt threads, other presences still, caught in that domain. I think we weren't the first. Callum's spine prickled. Historical records, entire tribes lost near Lake Lathe, legends of people walking into mist. If old Lathians' fluxives were gateways, maybe centuries of vanishings lay on their conscience now. We must close it for good, Lashonda said quietly. Seal the verb. But how to lock a door fashioned of phonemes? Languages mutate. They find hosts. Callum recalled that the codices were not original, they were copies by medieval scribes. The word had traveled already, an idea occurred, drastic yet linguistically sound. We can perform semantic erosion, he said. Flood the term with benign meanings until its core dissipates. If enough speakers use it casually, the imperative power may dilute. Petra, recalling her watery exile, stared. You want to popularize it? Exactly. We rebrand it as slang. Maybe an interjection like YOLO. If millions of tongues pronounce it daily without ritual intent, its vector collapses. Raj laughed nervously. From lethal verb to tick-tock catchphrase, they debated viability until dawn. Ultimately, they forged a plan. Create an online culture jam campaign around a nonsense word, supposedly meaning returning vibe. They recorded memes of themselves saying a softened version, da-la, plasticized for mass articulation. They ensured no one used the exact aspirated palatals of the original, just enough phonetic shift to count as usage without risk. Within weeks, their Delacque challenge spread among students bored with pandemic-era content. Influencers picked it up, adding meanings ranging from bounce back to that cozy feeling. Linguists on Twitter chuckled at the pseudo-etymology. As virality blossomed, Petra monitored a private metric. Nightly she whispered the authentic verb and sensed for the pull. Each day it lessened, like a tide retreating. After a month she reported none at all. Yet success bore side effects. The official story of the missing students had never been solved. Authorities quietly accepted the improbable that Petra and Jonah had embarked on unannounced fieldwork and returned. The university let Callum resume teaching, but under watchful gaze. He restructured the seminar into language, power, and myth, and refused to include old Leithian fluxives. One winter evening, when snow muffled campus into white hush, Callum visited the vault to check the codices. The pages appeared unchanged, but he placed a gloved finger on the fatal verb and felt nothing extraordinary, only the fragile dryness of parchment. Still, he shivered, because absence of peril felt itself like an untrustworthy lull. He closed the case, signed the log, and as he left the vault, he passed two undergraduates studying. One said to the other, I totally dwalloqueed my exam left, came back, aced it. They laughed. The word had lost its edges, domesticated into the amusements of youth. Callum should have found comfort. Instead, a question gnawed. If power leaked through one forgotten verb, how many others slept in languages yet to be uncovered? He thought of the threads Jonah had sensed, other presences still adrift. Some doors once glimpsed refused to stay closed. Outside, snow hushed the world. Callum buttoned his coat, stepping into the drifting white. Words hung in every breath he exhaled, invisible sigils that might one day shape or unshape reality. He walked toward the glow of streetlights, resolved to teach his students with deeper caution and deeper awe, knowing that in every language, alive or dead, slept verbs that could reorder the fabric of both grammar and existence.